What's happening, everyone? We are back. We're back again. It is Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. Give me a Mike sucks in the chat if Mike's doing okay today. Doing okay. Still on AirPods. I'm just not getting a new microphone. Microphone broke a couple weeks ago, and I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Went through like 3 or 4 microphones in the last couple of years, and just gonna have to wait on this one. Maybe I'll swap it out with one of the other ones. I really like this one though. I wish it did not die. But until then, AirPods. AirPods apparently doing okay. We're gonna get through with AirPods, but yeah, maybe the sound quality will improve in the next couple months. We'll see. But yeah, not cheap microphones. Those Shure SMDs are not cheap. I'll say that. Anyways, waiting on Tanto. Should be here shortly, but let me say hi to the chat real quick before we get into it. Master the dips on PulseChain. We'll be talking about a lot of different fun stuff too. This will be a fun stream. Buckle up, buckaroos. Should be a pretty fun stream. Always good to banter with Mr. Nomini, dip catcher. Steve D, ready for Grace stream? That is true. That's true. Good to see you, man. Good. We'll see you all tomorrow. You and Sarah and gosh, it's been a while since we got together for all the local crew and Jerry and oh man, all the brothers. Hopefully the Ballet brothers will be there and yeah, everyone else as well. So good to see you all. Hopefully, yeah, we'll have a good barbecue. It'll be super fun. Samir asks, when will PulseChain be listed on Bybit? Well, your guess is as good as mine on that. We shall see. Who knows when the Bybits will get bitten by the hex bug? You know, you never know. Never know. And when will it reach $5? Well, hopefully tomorrow. You never know. You know, at any moment, big whales can come in and provide a ton of liquidity that start a massive buying opportunity that pushes the price to multiple dollars. But right now, it's sitting under 5 cents. So one step at a time. It'll be good to see though. But again, crypto. Good morning to you as well. Crypto Kong's here. What's happening, man? Good to see you guys. All right. Well, looks like our guest has arrived. Without further ado, it has been a while. It's been a while with Mr. Nomini. Welcome back to the show, the master of dips, the ice cold builder, the only thing besides the popsicle stick that's keeping the Solana network from going offline for the 12th time.
It's quite the introduction there.
Dip Catcher Radio, he's back again. Good to see you.
Back again. How's it going? Good to see you.
It's going good. It's going good. It's yeah, just another sunny day here, and I'm glad to get to riff with you again. I know it's been a while, and yeah, so many things in between. You are a fearless builder. One of the things I respect among many things about you is you will build until there's no tomorrow and whatever you think is interesting. And I just want to say I really appreciate that about you. And I hope other people can see that as much as we do as well. So.
I appreciate it. And you too. But, you are quite the consistent. First thing when I get in the room, first thing I hear is you giving $5 hex price targets. So you are the perma bull.
Perma bull. Oh man, when I think of perma bull, I think of like 2017 of like, oh yeah, everyone's a perma bull, it's all cool, and then oh no, it's back again, and then oh no, going back again. So yeah, when I think of perma bull, I think of being extremely wrong and not having any expectations in that sense as well.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, you jumped in on the $5 predictions there that I totally did not give, but yeah, Shamir, he wants to know. First of all, will PulseChain be listed on Bybit? Second of all, will Hex coin reach $5? And then third, top it off, Hex prediction for 2025. What do you got? What dip catcher got?
As far as price,
I think it's what he's looking for. Yeah, he likes the price. Yeah.
So probably, honestly, it's hard to give like a price because what does that mean? Like the highest wick or the lowest wick down or something?
The most exciting are the wicks.
I think probably what makes most sense is what is the average price throughout 2025, and I would say that the average price is probably going to be what it is right now. Like I'm considering the combined price. So like what is that, like half a cent right now, and
something like that.
So. You know, because it's impossible to see, you know, because like you said, if someone can come in and because there's low liquidity and just like, you know, yoink the price around, you know, that whatever the wick hits, like in either direction doesn't necessarily matter, because very few people, like the only people who actually get in on those wicks are the arbitrage bots, and they're not even like buying. So I tend to not like, a lot of people measure like how something performed. Like if it's their favorite thing, they'll measure from like the wick down, or if it's a coin they don't have, they'll measure from the wick up to say how bad it's doing. I think it's kind of, that's what separates the kind of, people new to it versus people older, more experienced in this world, is that like that wick barely matters. Some type of average over some duration of time is what really matters. Because that's how you get a better idea of what prices people actually got in at. And so I would say that the average price next year is going to be what the current price is now. So that means that price can be lower than it is now, but it means price will spend some time higher than it is now.
Interesting. So not predicting in 2025 a huge uprun for Hex, but think there could be some considerable gains, or could sideways or down.
I mean, it's like it has a lot of headwinds that it has to fight through, but also it's been so bearish for so long that if something's going to give, it's going to give at some point. And so I think that, considering both of those things, that it kind of does make sense that, price may spend time lower than it is right now, and that price may spend time higher than it is right now. And I think that I still think that this year was especially bearish. I think it's a big unwinding of a lot of things from 2021 and 2022. Like, for instance, the price just got too high in 2021. And so because there are people with cost bases above 40 cents, like that's a big wind down, where anytime price pumps like that type of user, either they're giving up, like it's, because like if you put in $1,000 and it's worth like $20, like what are you going to do with that? But if, someone who put in a lot of money, and the big money was what really drove the price high, those users unwinding positions, there's a lot of those, because every time a lot of those people bought and staked for 2 years, and if they're down bad, then they're looking for any pump to sell their original position plus the inflation they earned. So we have active inflation coming in that's exiting. Like that's like double whammy on the price. So I think that like unwinding from how high price was in 2021 is a big thing. And then I think we're kind of experiencing some of the effects of I think trying to force the whole ecosystem activity on PulseChain, where we're kind of segmented from like the other inflows, and it's kind of, showing that with like Solana being the main thing that actually had any in the last year, the only one that had real inflows is Solana. And those inflows aren't really, they're not reaching ETH. And it's not like, like in the past where Bitcoin inflows would kind of affect Ethereum ecosystem, because all the trading of Ethereum was versus Bitcoin on centralized exchanges. And so like Bitcoin going up kind of, it was like a rising tide lifted all ships. That's really not the case in crypto anymore. There's no rising tide that really lifts all ships, maybe psychologically, but like the actual like effect of the liquidity rising tide. My working assumption is that that's done for. Maybe as far as like marketing goes and people looking for, opportunities, it's like seeing one thing run up and then seeking out other opportunities. Like in that sense, that rising tide can help, but that like direct cause of, it's like the liquidity's in these different buckets now, and it's more competitive than ever. So, we're not, experiencing. I mean, but that's the case with every chain. And then also like, PulseChain itself being basically a reflection of Hex price at the sacrifice time. So that was like July of 2021 for Pulse, and then New Year's for PulseX, because of the 0.0001 price that everyone got for their sacrifice. And most of the sacrificing was in Hex. And so, pinning basically pinning the Hex value at that time, and then extending it into PulseChain and PulseX, that has to take a lot to unwind, because right now for most people, that's like for Pulse being down, what, like 68% from that initial basis. For a lot of people, their position that's only down 68% may be their best trade and best, strongest position that they hold, because maybe there are other things that went down more than that. Like if you were only in Hex and then you sacrificed for Pulse and you continue to hold both, the Hex that you held as Hex is down whatever it is, but the Hex that you converted into Pulse during sacrifice, that's down 68%. And it's, fairly liquid. So if you need to sell, that's the thing you're going to be selling. So it's kind of just these compounding factors that I think have been impacting, and that'll just take some time to unwind. And it's going to be pain, and it's been painful, and it'll probably continue to be painful until those things are kind of unwinded. But those are the factors I think have the biggest impact on everything right now. There's a lot of like side quest narratives and things that impact it, but the big aside, even I notice I didn't even mention the court case. Like that, I think was already priced in, and that's already been priced in. The bigger impacts are like more of those economic things, and that's really just like the big unwinding from artificially high price, and then the kind of pinned cost basis that people in the ecosystem are experiencing from the sacrifice price.
Wow. So you think even into 2025, because that's, the rally cry for, I keep going around the community too, survive till 2025. Okay.
Well, that's because
just one more year.
That's because 2024 is coming past.
Yeah. But even, I brought up your tweet here that I thought was interesting too. I've talked about the each market cycle wants to things that allocate against loss, a shorter time horizon. And just a few examples here too. Does this play into, with PulseChain, with Hex? I mean, I guess what is the case too for, you said to unwind? What is the case for us winding back up, for everything to be more compressed? All the money coming in, or court case being resolved, or whales making moves, or I guess what is the case for, okay, well, if this thing's happened, that these are plausible, and then 2025 may look like the glory year that everyone wants it to be.
Yeah, I mean, whales making moves always makes an impact, but I think that there's seeing how the market reacted to the sacrifice funds being reinjected, and seeing even from personal experience, seeing how the market react, from the Gophers market has generally reacted to injection of funds from a similar mechanism, where basically it just gets faded completely and sold into. And it's almost like the market has a sense between what's like an authentic user purchase and what is funds from some type of launch mechanism, that's not necessarily real demand, because the coins are effectively being bought and burnt, even though it had buy orders are happening. And so I think that now that I've seen it basically on a large scale there, and then on a small scale with Gophers, I think the type of whale, I guess, has a, it's like when God Whale first aped into Hex in April of 2020, it's like that was not exit liquidity opportunity. It ran as a result. But sacrifice address putting 30 million into PulseX just gets eaten alive. And so, things are different then to now. And people are, and I think, there's been some kind of narrative, narratives getting disproven, or, things that people thought was going to happen, and then it just never really happened. And so that kind of winding down has an impact, but so it's really authentic demand. That's really the main thing that can drive that. And it's when that demand comes at because like I was kind of indicating here in this tweet, is that right now I don't know if it's because of the just there's kind of this tension at least online, like, like there's kind of this tension in the air. And I think in real life, people are, struggling with, like things are more expensive. They're not necessarily making more. Things are just kind of in this, and they have been for a couple of years now. During that time, I think that it places a little bit more financial urgency on people. And that's why, people want to know if they're going to win or lose within hours, so they can try to figure out what the next thing is that they can try to win at. Whereas in the past, based on the type of user that was in crypto and just how long it took for things to play out, those gains and losses are just spread out over such a longer period of time in the past. But now it's like, the gain, like for instance, like Pump.Fun, it's like the biggest, that's really been the only thing in crypto that's had major organic growth this year, like on a retail side. It's like those gains, and like within seconds of a launch, you can already tell which addresses are gonna experience gains, and you can already tell which ones are going to experience losses. So it's like almost instant where, and that's actually, like, I think it is a value, because like that's a core thing that crypto is good for is speculating. And the whole point of speculating is to allocate gains and losses. And so like, that's not even really a bad thing. It's just kind of the reality of it. That's just what people want. People want to make it all in one trade, and they want to do it now. So it's just kind of that's like what the market demands, and there's no complaining about it. It's just the reality.
Do you think even that's a cycle though too? Like again, if you're a long-term staker, you're hoping buy and hold comes back, right? You're hoping it becomes super popular again. You want this system, you want the whole idea of Hex, right? Like, you don't have to trade, you just lock it up, you earn interest, price goes up, it has been, at least, it's great. Like, that was like kind of the ideal back then. Do you think that these kind of like core ideals, like, I know crypto can make everything just go on extremes to both ways, and of course today we see that the speculation has just taken over a lot in the last year or two as well, and different kinds of games and all that stuff too. Is it, I mean, I don't know, it's always like one side is like the second I think it's going to change and not going to be that way, I feel like it's just going to come back in a big wave, like, the kind of like the FOMO of like changing strategies almost. But the other side of me is like, maybe things are just fads, they come and go, and that it is just like everything is just cyclical. I can also identify it being that too. So
yeah, it definitely is. And these things haven't been around long enough to see like kind of things. Maybe there has been some repeat stuff where like the ICO, where it was kind of like, the things that were just like the craziest, wackiest, like not even like crypto related ideas, like DentaCoin, like that was actually a big thing for a while. And like, so just like these crazy ideas with like a crazy white paper, those were really popular. And then it kind of shifted to where, DeFi things that were, promised high APYs or had the whole, it's just kind of that same thing where people want to be in early at some, groundbreaking type of business function. It went from the ICOs, which was maybe a little more offline, off-chain stuff, but it had a coin related to it, to like the DeFi protocols where the coin was related to the on-chain thing. And so maybe those things kind of repeat themselves in just a different way. Like, same with the NFTs, where it was like, say like there was a mint of 10,000 NFT, or, say like 10,000 of them. And like, so that means that like, 9,000 of them are worth nothing. 900 of them are worth something. 90 of them are worth, more. And then 9 of them are like, those people killed it. So that 0.1% of those users got a lot of gains. The 99% got almost nothing. That same thing of like allocating gains and losses for almost no reason. that use case was centered around NFTs in 2021, and now that use case has been centered around meme coins. So that kind of that like, those things have in the past repeated themselves. But it's not necessarily the coins from. I think that like Bitcoin having repeated numerous cycles is I guess like the potential justification for things like Hex repeating numerous cycles. But honestly, Hex's cycles may actually be truly like longer than a 15-year cycle, because something that I've tweeted about more so in the past, like around the time of Big Payday, but Big Payday actually has a pretty big impact on Hex's future inflation schedule because of all the Big Payday coins that are allocated over 15 years with like these big lump sums around 10 years and 15 years from that. So it's really like at year 11 from day 0, and then year 16, like a year after, like the 15, the max length stakes starting on day 352 or whatever Big Payday was, and how those a huge amount of like the initial inflation gets allocated to those 15-year stakes starting then. And so that creates like a big kind of supply issuance date, and then it suddenly goes away, kind of like in Bitcoin halvenings. And then like the ripples of that will be the early end stakes, because now coins that were out that were supposed to become minted on some day, every time someone emergency end stakes, those coins now get redistributed over a brand new 15-year period. And so all the active, and so the max that can last is like a 30-year period, because this max length stakes ending like the day after that early end stake, and then all the stakes that started the day before. So there's like a 30-year period where inflation that was set to come out on a certain date is now redistributed amongst. And so like there are these like going to be ongoing ripples, on these 15 and 30-year cycles of basically Hex having these kind of like inflation reductions. That's really what they are, as inflation reductions. And so maybe we'll see some type of like big time horizon cycles that, I mean, right now it's like, and maybe the cycles are just crazy between then. I think I have an old tweet, I don't know if I can find it, of, I think maybe if I search something like survive from my tweets, maybe. Yeah.
Survive.
And then there's like a, and I may have called the top on the day with this one. I'll send it here in the private chat. Like there could be these crazy sub cycles in between, but we just haven't really been around long enough to experience that. It's like, it's kind of the pivotal point, because part of why Bitcoin continued to succeed was because it continued to have cycles. So it's almost like there needs to be a catalyst which drives a new cycle, because that's what increases the likelihood of continued cycles. Is there having, because then it's not a cycle. It's just like a one and done thing, which is most things.
Do you think big ETH will may come in and start new cycle?
It could, and it probably should. But like I said earlier, that like the market has had it is able to kind of suss out authentic demand versus that kind of, artificial demand. But
well, I always think if it happened,
because that ETH wallet is bigger than the sum of all the liquidity in the whole entire chain of PulseChain. It's greater than the sum of all the like, it's like how many times larger than the bridge? Its losses are like 3 times as large as
4, 5. Yeah.
Yes. So
that would be more of a reset than an injection, then, right? Like that would be like, here's a new ecosystem.
Yeah. So I don't know. I maybe this is a bottom signal sentiment, but at this time, I'm really only looking at EHEX. because that to me is like I think it's actually a leading indicator of the rest of the ecosystem. And because like if EHEX is done, then it like instantly discounts everything else. And so, and because like, there's like before when, like the thinking was that the value be split roughly equally across both, copies, it kind of lessens the economic impact of selling either one of them, because, if all the value is only in one, then all of the sell pressure is going to come from that one. And so like, EHEX being kind of the original and being the one that can be successful regardless of PulseChain success. Because in L2, that's a whole other thing. Like it's a very competitive game. Like look how many new, like from the time PulseChain launched, or even since the time PulseChain was announced, how many new blockchains have come out that are fast and cheap? Like nearly, there's hundreds now, and there's dozens that have more liquidity and more users. Pulse has the copies, but that I don't know if it's too late, but that was the chance to have the differentiation was really good liquidity strategy around the copies, which like everything, it's crazy because like I look back to like text side sent and like talking about kind of why PulseChain would be successful, and kind of what the original stated purpose of the AMM bot that basically went and like used the one mighty hammer it had, which is the ability to print PLS tokens and mint wrapped Pulse before the network was live. Like the way it was able to absorb basically not just the AMMs, it absorbed anywhere it could, any DeFi contract it could touch, it basically did. It like leading up to that, I was like, this is the secret sauce here. Like this is where it's like, kind of being able to utilize that for the, and what Ink was kind of, it's kind of turned into something else, but kind of what I thought the role of Ink was going to be in that, and the role of Ink in helping, kind of build a peg with the, like, in my mind, and that's why I'm pretty sympathetic to the like the PDI thing, because that's like a real effort to try to get a peg, like a peg that to me was like the secret sauce, was that like between these mechanisms there could be not a peg where like it's infinitely redeemable, but one where there's thick enough liquidity on both sides to where it's at least somewhat interchangeable. I like going into that thinking that was what the case would be, like that would be our unique thing, because like there were other forks where the coins were copied, but those didn't have like a mechanism to be able to really lean into that copy as like an extension, where almost like PulseChain could have been like an extension chain of Ethereum, where it's not like an L2 and it is an L1, but because it's kind of bound by that, like basically thick liquidity across all coins type of mentality. Like in my mind, like that's a really unique scaling solution and opportunity. But since that just really like it's been over almost a year and a half now, and that's just like it may be too late for that type of thing to be implemented. So it's like these things that have gone on, like it's very difficult to compete as an L1, and so first like having to win the L1 battle, and then the coins on top of that to then have success. Like that's like a two-pronged thing where you need the one big hard thing to happen, and then if it does, it can cause for higher performance, but kind of if it doesn't, it's like almost game over. So that's why I think that EHEX is still important, because it's like not necessarily reliant on that. Like if all else fails, it might be all we have, which may be fine. We would be big losses across the board, big unwind. It probably cause even more of a bear market. But, a lot of people only care about Hex.
That would be wild. Everything go back into
Hex like 12 to 15 years. And so, like it could, like these long time horizons, most people haven't been adults for that long, like for 15 years. I haven't. And so how can we possibly reason about that? But I don't know, it's a long game, and it's, more competitive than ever.
I don't think the strategy, though, I mean, when you talk about that, I just don't think the strategy is to be the best L1 and to sell people on the merits of, I mean, yeah, it's going to be like, oh, here's some cool things we have, the liquidity, the copies, the products and stuff like that. But I don't know, when I think about PulseChain, I never thought, okay, it's going to be, everyone from Ethereum is going to move to PulseChain. I always took it as it's going to be the place where people are going to have all these cool products, and they're going to have they're going to have all these games to play, such as the copies and the airdrop and all that stuff too. But it's going to be a place just to, like, people go to make money. Like, they go there to use new products that start from zero and get early in and all that stuff too. And a lot of things that were priced out, all the scenarios that were priced out can like live on PulseChain and do that. So when I frame it like that, and that's just the way I think about it, I don't see it being, I don't know how it could be too late for any of those things to get started back up when there just hasn't been the momentum into PulseChain other than like the first, 2 or 3 months or so. Mm-hmm. It's just like, I could totally see, I guess the scenario is like, I could totally see, when retail comes in and we get all the, attention and people come in and start spending money using the chain more and all that stuff, it gets pumped back up to that. Then all the pieces that are already there, all the liquidity pieces, the PulseX upgrade that happened recently with Stable Swap, we'll talk about that in a minute too. But all the different products are there, and all the liquidity and all the copies that people are like, oh, I should actually check that now, because now all people are, pouring into PulseChain. This is oh yeah, I heard about that a year or two ago, but whatever, I thought it was a scam, or I thought, I didn't want to mess with it or whatever. But at that point, is like, why couldn't it just be, oh, now we got these 10 bullish, amazing things that are here, and they just take off from there? Like, what does it mean to be too late on that?
No, well, so when I said too late for the specific thing about the copies, like where the copies, and there having been like that AMM bot that basically absorbed a bunch of those coins, and like that piece of it, to where because right now it's like you tell someone about the PulseChain, they have a copy, they're thinking about like, oh, what coins did I hold in May of 2023? It's not like what coins you have.
Which is kind of cool, actually. It's kind of like, oh, yeah, now I got those coins back, right?
Yeah, but the kind of like a seamless, like, big liquidity strategy for those that's the piece. It's never too late for new use cases that can kind of unlock that. Like if there was like a big, for instance, like Polymarket, where people are sharing those, that's how people are tracking the odds of who's going to win the president. Like, that's on Polygon, and no one actually, most users, I guess I've never used Polymarket, but if I understand, a lot of users don't even really realize it's on Polygon, and it's like a pretty big use case right now. And, there could be a big retail use case that, onboards people into PulseChain through that type of mechanism, where Polymarket's not really about the blockchain stuff. It's really about the odds and betting, for instance. And, something like that could be built on PulseChain that drives new use into PulseChain. And that's completely independent from the copies and, it being a fork of Ethereum. That is just it being an EVM that, has some type, some qualities that, give it values. There being some adequate liquidity for whatever the use case is. And then there being, stuff that works and stuff that gets, good distribution.
Well, here's an idea real quick too, just on that. Why isn't there a product that you can that really plays into the copies of, hey, literally if you buy, I mean, I know we have the farms and stuff where you can, we had the various ones. You could have the Pepe farms. We had WBTC at some point as well. Why isn't that either a central piece, like a big feature of like PulseX? Like if you take your coins, provide liquidity here, you'll get ink. You'll all the different copies. So it's like really get thick liquidity up there. Or do you think that could either be official product from the PulseX devs and stuff, could be a community built product where it's like, okay, if you got bring the copies in, earn. I know there's different farms and do it kind of like with everything else, but just something focused on this really cool feature of PulseChain is you have these coins that, it's been a year or two now. You probably forgot you have them. To you, it probably feels like you have new coins to play with, free money, really even more than before. Like before it was kind of like, yeah, whatever you have on Ethereum is copied over. But that point just felt like a copy then. Now, if you did it, I don't know. To me, if I was a new user, it would feel like it would actually be free money now that time has passed, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So why isn't, or, could you see that being an update? Could you see that being how much further could the incentivized liquidity between the pairs outside of just adding a farm here and there on PulseX? Is there any way to do that?
I mean, that's like up to the master chef, and they kind of did that for a couple of days. Remember, like a year ago, I think it was like which I still think about this, and I still look back at these transactions like that the master chef was doing, and it just confused. Like I'm so confused, like what the deal was with that, because it's like there were immediately there were like the big pools incentivized, like PLS, PulseX, and Hex. And then for a while there was like the EX PX one. And then there was like the, BTC and wrapped, and the DApp may show the whole history of it. Like if you look at the farms, I guess is what I'm referring to. If you see the finished, is it staked only? Look at finished, then click that thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So these are the ones that used to exist. So there was, the Pepe farm, there was the Hex farm, there was the RapidTC, but those things lasted for like a couple days, and then like there hasn't. If you look at at whatever the trend, like if somehow look at the master chef or like the contract that, like if you just click any one of those pools, and you could probably, if it's too much on the Explorer, like the, so OX171, I think that's the router. I don't, you'll have to dig through the Explorers to see the activity, but there was like a couple days where there was activity and then it all stopped, and it's almost like it undid. And one of those transactions from the master chef, like when it adds those pairs, there was like a fat finger mistake where it accidentally pasted the uni token, not the uni pair. So like there was some like accident.
Are we talking about that?
Yeah, and so like there was like it seemed like there was some type of strategy for that, which was going on, I think, in like last summer, so a couple months after launch. But then it just like all stopped. I think it was because that led to people running the price up of the copies because they viewed it as like a type of validation from Richard or some indication that he may be buying those to farm or something. And then people that were holding those coins were just like, oh, free money, free airdrop, I'm just going to sell it. So like maybe that kind of caused that strategy to get walked back, was just seeing that it was a source of net outflow. And so that may, that may have been a result of it happening like months after the fact and not like launching with massive pools. And then, but in that case, because it's like that AMM bot thing ended up with like huge amounts of the supply for a lot of coins, because if the coins were in a liquidity pool, it could, or some type of other DeFi protocol, it could reasonably get them. So some obviously had more supply, more percent of the supply than others, but like even if it didn't have a majority of the supply, had it launched with massive liquidity across like basically any coin and the copies that it made sense to do, that could have helped support those, and but I don't know, and there could be, and I think that isn't that what like GIF is kind of like, where it kind of is incentive for both coins, the copy and the original? Like, aren't there kind of some mechanisms within that like are a reason to hold your copy or use your copy?
I mean, there's arbitrage between minting and buying off the market. I mean, there's just, to make PGIF, for example, you need 10 GIF per PLS, or 10 PLS per GIF, and then you mint the new coin, which and then there's a ratio between the two. But as far as incentivizing for holding, well, it's something new I haven't heard of. I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I may be mistaken, but yeah, I mean, like there always could be. I mean, like for instance, like that hex combinator thing, like that's a coin that you mint by depositing the original and the forked version, and it works on both chain. So like, that one, there's no real incentive to do it. Like there's like, it's really just to produce a price chart. Like that's the whole purpose. It's not really like a coin that is useful, but like mechanisms where you need both coins, like that's a very easy thing to do. And
wait, did you say the real hex? I thought the real OG hex was a version that was deployed a few minutes before the real one.
Yeah, I mean, that is actually the real hex, and I will not accept any other version of hex than hex 5D1.
Then hex original hex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was. I love when you go through and you post the things about like pieces of this kind of stuff. It's just really interesting to see with the commentary. Since hex supply was generated during the BTC frame was ongoing, this 0x5D1 version had supply of 0. Interesting. Yeah, hex history there.
Because I don't know if like that one may have, I don't know if something was wrong with it, or if like maybe they forgot to put in the origin address. Like maybe that, like, I'd have to really look at the bytecode, because it's not verified. But when you compare the bytecode of that one to the bytecode of the verified hex contract, it's basically identical. So like presumably it is hex, but maybe there was just something that they caught, or something where they needed to fix it for the final one. Maybe it had like a testnet address, or I don't know. Who really knows? But at that time, like a lot of people weren't really tuned in to the being able to kind of sleuth around like that, and deploy a front end for an unverified contract. So maybe that would have been a crazy part of this story, would have been if like people had figured out how to mint that like unofficial like test like broken version of hex, and then that becomes like some like rare collectible or something. Like
that is
crazy things could happen. But yeah, there's always something there.
Sorry, I flicked through your Twitter earlier and I was like, hold on, we talked about flubber. Yes, I want flubber. When
do a little dance, make a little love, get down tonight. It's so funny. One of my earliest memories, not earliest memories, but a memory from my childhood was that my parents didn't want me watching Flubber when I went to my cousin's house because of the lyrics of that song.
That particular song?
Yeah.
It's a pretty clean movie, if I remember.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
PG, but
shout out to Rob
yeah, the future is imagine AI and Flubber. What could you do with that?
Dude, I want Flubber. If they make a Flubber, is that like, were we like 18 months out? 18 more months till flubber. Like AI, I've been super into AI lately too, and it's super interesting. But yeah, I know you've probably been using it for coding and stuff like that. But like it's a game changer, right? Like it's undeniable.
Yeah. That's the
you already figured out how to code. You already figured out how to code.
AGI that it's gonna either ruin the world or save the world is gonna look a lot like Flubber actually.
Oh, okay. I just want like a Tesla robot. I just want like a Elon Musk give me a robot to like cut the grass and like fix food and just that either sounds really utopian or really dystopian. I'm not sure which one. I could totally see that going both ways, but like we're getting robots, people. We're getting robots at some point.
See, maybe I think that similar to kind of like a human type robot, something that would be practical or like robots that just, supplement you. So like imagine having like 2 robotic arms that are just attached to you. Like you maybe put on like a backpack and then now you have 4 hands, like sometimes you ever, like what's that Dave Chappelle quote where he's like, I wish I had 4 hands. So I give those titties 4 thumbs down. So maybe there's some.
I was like, if you're about to quote Dave Chappelle with 4 hands, it's gonna probably go in some direction. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe things like those type of robotics are gonna be, useful. Is where like, because like
double high fives.
Yeah, or like juggling 14 scarves. I don't know.
Scarf juggling contest. I like it. Yeah. That was a quick break into Flubber and AI. I did want to cover. I love some of these posts. Avoid using USD Soy. USD Soy is CBC Lite. What do you think about the new Maker stablecoin deal and how they're doing? So it's Sky now instead of Maker, and DAI is USDS, which sounds like a government agency when I think about it. Or like some like USPS, and that makes me think of that too. I'm just a lot of S's there. I don't know what it is, but what do you think of the Maker rebranding?
It sounds like a good idea for them, like as a business. Like
put that soy latte down right now and you go get some oat milk.
Yeah, I don't know. Like they've kind of cracked the code on that type of business, which, there's a lot of demand for like US dollar equivalents online. And so being able to almost like kind of reset and serve, new markets. Because right now DAI serves like the on-chain native audience, where it's like a decentralized, fully collateralized stablecoin. But like USDC has a freeze function and it works just fine. Like,
I think that's what people like about DAI, right? It's like, no, this is the free coin. We don't have all of that stuff. There's some counterparty risk because it's made up of something. I forget. Maybe it's made up of part stable USDC. Is that right? Like part of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole basket of assets that are used to collateralize it, and so it can like
even BAT still.
Yeah, like there's all kinds of stuff that I don't know I don't know to what extent that it is part of its collateralization, but but I think that like so it captures that, and that part's not going away. Like I think that's kind of the misconception that people may have around the topic, is that they're like shifting from the decentralized version to the non-decentralized version. What it really is that they're also going to be doing a non-decentralized version, and I think that having a new brand around it is probably better, because it like will eliminate confusion, and then people wouldn't go into the centralized version thinking it's the decentralized one. So now it's like kind of a clean slate, but that like, entity is going to be pursuing that new line of business, which, I mean, look how much Tether makes to basically, I mean, I imagine it's a lot of difficult work around the banking and actual like risk management of the whole thing, but they basically just hold a bunch of treasury notes and other US dollar equivalents, and then they collect on that. And they manage a the smart contract for USDT, and they deal with it on multiple chains. But the actual like having a system that decides when to issue or burn a coin that's based on your own data that you're collecting, like it's not necessarily that difficult. And so, it's a big business, and they probably just want to tap into that.
Don't have a lot of questions that I can take today from chat, but there is one about, I think from Sandy Beach, asking about, base is due next month, right?
Base is due in October. Yeah, this is the second cycle, and actually, so probably more important. I mean, so base, that's like the tried and true 1 year cycle. So that one will probably be redeemable for about 1.25 hex. So if you've held base for 2 years, you're captured, you now have a 25% hex on hex gain, while the hex price has gone down 99%. So at least you got 25
in hex terms.
Yeah, at least you got 25% more hex. But probably
shout out to hex.
That like
hex
because base is the clock for the rest of these except maxi. But so base is the clock for the team staking cycle. So team has these year-long staking, and team's yield is fairly low because at least in the first 2 years, the only source of yield for team has been from the base stake. And now, like Name, for instance, launched a pool party one that's a 90-day stake that's paid into team as well. But the fee on pool party pools are very small. So that's going. So that so it's modest. So team so far has had modest yield, but starting for year 3, it's actually going to be a really massive year for yield for the team stakers, because you have the third cycle of base, you have the first cycle of trio. So that's basically like 3 years of yield in one with trio. And then you have the first installment of the Maxi 369 rebate. So year 3 is like the first big year for team yield. So team holders are going to get a bunch of Maxi, stakers. You have to be staked for the whole year. And so that deadline is when that next base stake starts. So leading up until it's coming in just over a month, I'm glad you brought this back up to me, because I want to give this adequate attention. But year 3 is going to be the first big year. There's a handful of big years in the team staking. And year 3 is one of them. So for people people need to be well aware that they need to stake their team by, I think it's mid-October. I forget, it's like October 16th or something. I'll have to look into Maxi. So team has a big staking deadline coming up here in a couple of weeks. So that's going to be exciting. Year 6 is going to be a big year, because it's a larger Maxi rebate during that time, and it's the second trio cycle and the 6th base one. 7 is going to be big because it has 7th base cycle and the first lucky. Which Lucky's my favorite of these. And then year 10, year 9 is going to be big just from the last year of the Maxi rebate is in year 9, and that's the biggest installment. So that has a big one. And then like year 10 is going to be massive because DESI. So DESI was the biggest one by far, and it has 10 years of yield that it's accumulating, and it maxed out bigger pays better, and the fee that is paid to team stakers is based on bigger pays better. So like all these different factors. So like there's a handful of years that have massive yield in team, and this is the first one. And this one is actually the smallest one of that whole group, but it's the first. It's much bigger than 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are modest. 3 is big. 6 bigger. 9 really big. 10.
I'll just Oh, I was going to ask you. Yeah, I mean, speaking of staking out of the West, bro, can we break 130K? I think I said back in May. I was like, oh, I did. I took a picture. I fed it to Claude, and I was like, all right, project when it's going to break 130K. I was like, oh yeah, it should be like May, maybe June, and we just keep hovering up and down here. Dev, what can we do to break 130K stakers on PulseChain? What product are you working on to make sure this happens?
We actually have, because there are about 10,000 users in these stake pools, and that is spread across 5 unique stakes. So so congratulations, we just broke 100.
Just did it. Dev cooked. Dev cooked.
Just reframing of
Dev cooked it. I like it. Yeah.
So that's what, and I don't know. I mean, just that being a kind of what we were talking about earlier about how the people want the gains now, and there's, it's like reality has unfolded and people learn lessons. And so, that like the big times of, I mean, look at the times where it really grew, like say July 2021 through September 2020, like that big boost there, like all of those users are, it's like the staking doesn't even matter because of how much down their underlying is, like early, like
how much
they don't really,
how much up they may be.
Well,
in the future.
Yeah. So
maybe
when they currently look at their chart, what they're at. So, it's just like, maybe there could be big catalysts. I am probably going to roll out some more stake pools. There are some good ones on Pool Party. But I mean, in general, it's just like it's almost like kind of beating a dead horse in a way, because like, there's just low demand for hex right now. And so there's especially low demand for pre-staked hex. And so it's always better to, to do that when there's increased demand, but maybe there needs to be some type of demand catalyst. I think probably, I mean, I guess something I am more interested in is, as opposed to just getting more hex staked, figuring out ways to like getting hex bought.
Or instead of getting hex staked, how do we make the price go up? And then secondarily, more staked.
Yeah. Well, because like like hex staking, it's, I think, and I think I made this mistake in the past, is thinking that it was like a risk-free play. It's certainly not. Like,
I mean, the whole idea is you lock it up now, you earn the inflation instead of getting inflated. But, if the price goes down a lot, that's like, okay, well, but if it goes up in the future, everything's good. But it's kind of like you're waiting, right? You're in the middle, you're waiting, for that. So yeah, that's definitely, it's a trade-off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I have a friend who bought hex and then didn't even think about, like, couldn't figure out staking. I think they didn't have enough like they bought hex and then they like sent hex to another wallet, and that wallet didn't have ETH. And so they never staked it. They just sat on their hex in a wallet that, like, I guess they didn't have enough. I don't know. For some reason they didn't stake, and then they forgot about it. And then, like, mid 2021, they're like, hey, like, my hex, I think it's worth a lot. Like, I want to sell it. What do I do? And then they sold it, and like the amount that they got, even though they didn't stake, through big payday, like they missed big payday, like that multiple that they achieved is like, it may not ever be recreated for a new like hex user.
That was a special time, in that period of time was
buying at very low prices had a lot greater impact than like the incremental, even though like in hex staking, because the OA doesn't stake, now the sacrifice address doesn't stake the hex. You can, like the max link stakes, new ones are probably going to pay out like 8 to 12x or so. But like everyone's getting that. Everyone who's max link staking is also getting it. So like, even though you're not getting inflated, like you're outpacing the inflation, like there's still a lot of people earning that inflation too. So like everyone.
But I think that's what the cycle kind of takes care of that though, doesn't it? Because it's like, okay, at that time, even though they're getting a lot, they may not sell because they think it's going to go higher, for example. So it's like, even if everyone around you has plenty of coins, it's the question is, do they want to sell or not? Like, how incentivized are they to do that versus is they going to dump the price or not by that many people having all the coins?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe year 7, when we get a lot of the max link stakes from year 1 who are able to end and get their principal back, the payouts probably are going to increase a lot, and some of that future inflation that was like scheduled to come out, around day 55, or 300 days after that, like now that inflation is being again like reallocated over like all the new stakers based on when the penalties allocated, then that can reduce that effect as well. Is like the just the redistribution of those coins. But I don't know. I think that we are a big catalyst is needed, and it's never too late for a new big catalyst, is what I think.
Speaking of big catalysts, direct question, are the Gophers taking Hex to Solana?
So there's no real connection between Gophers and Hex.
Not yet.
A slight connection between PLS and Gophers, because that's like the biggest liquidity pair. But
how are the Gophers doing? The ERC 404. I mean, back when we first covered it, I thought that was just a really cool, innovative concept. How are things going? I haven't kept up with them. I feel like there's
I mean, just like
divisive. Some people love it, some people don't like it.
It's kind of followed the standard meme coin cycle, where it is very exciting for a little bit, and then people move on to other things, and and then price kind of unwinds, and people want to be in on day one of something brand new. So Gophers is definitely experiencing a lot of that. The ERC 404 ones, like especially the PulseChain one, it has a massive liquidity base in PLS. So it's basically flat versus PLS, kind of trending down from the highs, but up from the launch. But since PLS is down from the time that Gophers launched, PLS is down something like 80% or so.
Sorry, I keep looking at this comment and it keeps cracking me up. Sorry to interrupt. Let's just address this so I can get off the page.
Yeah, and if you held a pile of dog shit for 8 months,
it's kind of funny.
You can trade it for 80% more Gophers too. Like a lot of things can go down.
You can really replace Hex with any other coin at this point. It's just funny because of course we're talking about Hex. So you said Hex.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the Gophers is definitely not immune from that. It's like you live and die by that cycle, I guess. And I was looking at some of the stats on like new launches. There's something like 1 million meme coins launched every month, and the number of them that achieve a positive ROI from their week 1 price, like months later, it's like a tiny handful. And so it's just definitely a competitive space. I think that like Gophers, the 404 versions on ETH and Pulse, those were early to the kind of ERC 404 kind of thing. But then the version on Solana was like mid to late to the meme coin cycle. So they kind of have their own different kind of cycle within there. As of now, the Gophers on Solana has actually paid pretty high yield for the staking. There's some pretty big payouts to the Gophers stakers, and something I've been just kind of, making it a goal is to, because I definitely consider myself like an Ethereum, like smart contract expert. I'm trying to get there with Rust for Solana. And so hopefully there can be, new things kind of built around Gophers on Solana. It's just a longer development cycle compared to things on, like on Ethereum, and also, there are things that I've been building for Ethereum now. They're, unrelated to not like a coin, but things trying to solve some big problems that I've seen in how coins get launched. Problems that were experienced firsthand from how Gophers, rolled out, taking lessons from how I've seen like the perpetuals, how they perform, especially around the redemption cycle. And also
stop it. Just stop it. Build on PulseChain. Stop trying to solve other problems. Pump my bags on PulseChain.
Now it's coming to Ethereum Classic. We're gonna roll out to the original Ethereum.
Oh my God! If I saw it, that would be if you did Ethereum Classic. Sorry, a couple other questions. I just want to get to the chat before we wrap up too. But Bitcoin is a builder, and like I said, I love people I love your attitude towards things of like, I'm going to build on whatever I think is interesting. I'm going to pay attention to whatever blockchain. Of course, you've done so many things for Hex and built on so many things for PulseChain. Hopefully, many more to come. But yeah, it's. I think everyone in the community is kind of like, I wish more things on PulseChain. But this is DeFi, right? This is crypto. This is freedom. Exercise your freedom. I think that's very respectable, very committed.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm always willing to try new things. Always willing to lever up the risk. And I mean, the way I view it is that like, these are just like everything is just like how do you get to that like 10,000 hours of mastery? Like, how do you, taking swings at bat and trying things. And like, that's the way to do it. Cause I'm intent on being kind of in this world forever. And, I'm
forever
30, so maybe like 70 more years of kicking ass before I start.
We're working on it. We're going to get you like 170. Okay.
Yeah. So
all of us need to get super rich and invest in longevity research, and it could be possible from that point. But
see, my longevity research is just looking at what my grandpa did. He like lived past 100, and he basically he went to the casino almost every day. Which I think,
sir, is this longevity advice? I'm not sure.
I think that the secondhand smoke from the casino and the suspense every time you press the slot machine, like that, like little. I actually think that contributed a lot to because he lived through like deteriorating health. He was injured in the war, like very badly, and then like. Ended up
the War of 1812. You're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, and so
secrets, yeah.
so like, because that's long enough in many cases. Like 100 is
I'll take 400. I like 400. Sardi Bartfast, I think I said that correctly. Is the mystery box going to stake its huge team bag in October?
That is a mystery. I guess we will only see.
Part of the name.
But I guess think about what you would if you were the mystery box. What would you do? And that's probably what I mean, that wouldn't
tell anyone.
No, it gives no indication of what will happen. But I think it's a good introspective thing to think about. Like if you were
send it all to the SAC address.
If you were the steward of something, and if you had the choice to not do the rebate, if you had it's like, would you like throw a bone and then take it back? So like answer that personally, Slarty. Like, what would you do? And then maybe that won't tell you what's going to happen, but it'll at least be a good introspective thing for yourself.
Send it all to the SAC address and help fund the future transactions of pumping bags and ecosystems that we have no expectations of. Yeah, it is mystery.
So far the mystery box has provided liquidity and then sent some team into the staking reward buckets for the diamond hands and team, but it's also just sat on the coins.
Sometimes
when I look at it, I think it's actually kind of pointless. Like perhaps that team copy shouldn't have even existed realistically.
You can delete the mystery address, or somebody, I guess, can if they wanted to, right? You just delete it.
Yeah, you could burn it. Well,
just delete it. Just hit the delete button.
Backspace.
Backspace. The address doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, you just declare that it's deleted and it's gone.
You just tell everyone it's deleted. Fast Abdul, what do you think of maximalist yield farms on Fux and 2Fux?
I haven't looked at them. Where can I find more? Anything is good because the stake pools as designed, they're really centered around even though the part of the value proposition that a lot of people like is that they're liquid. They don't necessarily, other than being they're fungible and they're transferable. There wasn't really any solution built into them to solve liquidity because it's really just based on demand. And it's all like asking a user because if the whole point of them really was about the end state gas fee, that's the most important thing. That's the big lever there. But then getting people to stake through that because of what they can save on end state gas fees, but then telling that user to provide liquidity across from the starting price all the way through the whole length of the thing, the amount that they lose versus just holding the stake till the end, unless there's massive trading volume, which may not happen to that degree. The amount that they lose in impermanent loss is on the order of magnitude of what they would lose to paying that end stake fee. And so that's always a tricky design space is, what is the amount or the right amount of liquidity for these systems? Because I guess the one that I care more about than the amount of the coins for sale is the amount of buy side liquidity. So that's something that I've prototyped and haven't really, taken it beyond that stage yet. My best idea for increased liquidity is really just increased buy side liquidity. And what that would be is a hex stake pool that instead of pooling the hex and then staking it, it first pools the hex and then places buy orders and buys it basically finds the best deals on T-shares, whether it's to stake it itself or to just buy up any coins. And so it kind of has a market buy, a Uniswap buy order and a kind of discretionary, basically a limit order OTC function.
A dip buyer.
Yeah. So basically a discount buying pool on these stake pool tokens. So I definitely have, some ideas which kind of can solve that. But again, it's a demand thing. If there's low demand, these things have only existed during a down only bear market in hex. And so if there's low demand for hex, there's especially low demand for pre-staked hex. And then if there's especially low demand for pre-staked hex, there's even more low demand for something like team that earns its yield from pre-staked hex volume. So it's, these things don't necessarily solve that demand issue, which is really the main thing. But when PHUX launched, the liquidity for these had never been higher. Now that there's PHUX2, which can also contribute to that, and if all those route through the Piteous routers, then that's awesome. And I would like to, I'd have to look at it. I haven't seen those, but hopefully that means that there's also incentives for the bridged Ethereum versions, because those could use some liquidity too. And if there's other things that are helping to subsidize that liquidity, in those farms, then that's even better.
Shout out to the dip catcher algorithm, by the way. I still have my DCA token somewhere. Yeah, when Unisocks, Dev? When DCA Unisocks? When
list those for sale? People are always asking me how they can get the thing, and there's not many of them. I think there's like a handful of them for sale. One guy told me that he has like a shocking amount of them, and he hasn't figured out how to list them. And I'm like, dude, please put those in a Uniswap V3 pool. Put them at a fair price. Maybe have some markup ones, but because like a lot of people want the algorithm, and of course I could just sell it other ways, but I want to at least sell as many as possible through the original sales mechanism, which is that buddy pass.
Uniswap's chart dev.
If you hold DCA token, please list it on for sale so people can buy it.
Yeah.
And you can definitely try to list it at a markup from what you paid, but don't make it a reasonable price. Give yourself a reasonable markup.
555. I mean, back then it would have 0.1 ETH per. What was it? I can't remember
like
what it was.
0.0. It was like it came out to at the time like $32.
Okay, well, 555. That's a little bit of a markup then.
And so hey, you got access and you got the buddy pass. So for basically yourself and one extra.
Yeah, that's how. Okay.
Yeah, so that's how that. So $32 is basically like if you sell it at that, you got access for free.
10 to 100x that. That'd be.
But also, I mean,
this is PulseChain.
The ETH price I think has doubled since then. So. Yeah.
Closing final remarks. Name of the stream is Master the Dips on PulseChain. Any not financial advice for mastering the dips on PulseChain while we wrap it up here?
I mean, just have fun, you guys. Like that's all we can do, Is it
survive till 2026? Are we going 2026?
Yeah. Survive till 2026. Survive.
Doesn't rhyme, but.
Survive till 26. And yeah, I mean, just have fun. There's really nothing else to do. Also, just probably, I mean, like it feels like crypto's kind of in like a broader little sub bear cycle now. There's probably going to be a new wave of opportunities as a result, like from majors getting marked down and then just like new things coming out. So just stay in the game. You always want one more at bat. So just don't give up.
I'm not betting against Richard Hart either. I'm not betting against that guy in particular. I'm not saying that he is the network and he's the one we're all betting on all this stuff. I think PulseChain as a network has proven itself in so many different ways. It's a super cool thing. It's just the excitement of it. As the price went down,
he blocked me on Twitter, and since then my whole algorithm for crypto related content is entirely different, and it's actually pretty awesome. Wow. Like the things that I have been like more exposed to as a result of just like how the algorithm kind of sorts you into what crypto bucket you're in. Going from it went from where he used to follow me, and he followed my alt. So he used to follow me on two things. But then it went from following me to then not following me, and then to blocking me. And so I don't know how the Twitter algorithm works in that sense, but the spaces that I've been a lot more exposed to as a result are the eigenlayer ecosystem, which is kind of like this like extension of Ethereum where you can restake your ETH and then use that as like basically like providing security to other networks. So eigenlayer is kind of an interesting concept that I've been just more exposed to. And then also Berachain, which is like an EVM coin or an EVM chain that is based on this proof of liquidity system, where it's like instead of like proof of stake, where you're locking up the like the gas token, you participate in the validation and the governance by providing liquidity in select markets. So it's kind of like if Ink was if ink was the governance coin of PulseChain, is kind of what it's. And it was.
It isn't.
Foundation. Could be.
It isn't the governance coin. I mean, what, you know.
So
anyways,
the being blocked is actually in a way has kind of caused Twitter to just show new ideas in front of me, which I'm actually quite thankful for.
It gave you a break. You know, it's a 16D chess. And, you know, Richard, if you're listening, at one point, if you do want to unblock Mr. Tanto Namini, once he, you know, maybe just bring him back into the fold. And I'm sure it's nothing personal. You probably just said something. He's like, I don't need to see this right now.
Oh, it came right after I tweeted a picture of his belly, suggesting I was going to get it printed on a mouse pad.
That's a blockeroni.
Yeah, I mean it's just blatant like making fun, you know, which like of course is not personal. Like people are talking about mouse pads with women's breasts on it, and then there's just the perfect picture that, yeah, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. Like if I was, it was certainly not personal, but that was when it happened. Mouse pad thing.
Mouse pad. Well, I hope everyone's got their money's worth today. Tanto, shit, how do you say your correct name? I say it the Italian way every time. Tanto Namini.
Tanto Namini. No, dude, I think you're right. You got it.
That how it goes? I've willed it. I manifested it. It's now Italian. No, it does mean something very cool. Otherwise, Tanto Nomini. Yeah, that's what you say, right? A name so great that it's not a name.
Yeah, it comes from a tombstone saying from like old Italian. I mean it's Latin, but it's.
So yeah, I told you it's Italian. I knew it.
Yeah, and so but yeah, it is kind of cool. But yeah,
it's a great name.
Dipcatcher Radio.
Dipcatcher Radio. We did it again. Amazing name, Italian pronunciation or Latin. I think that they're both fun. Appreciate you and all the stuff you do. And hopefully all the future stuff you do, especially, you know, in this community, in the PulseChain community and stuff too. So everyone, I give you Dipcatcher. That's all we got for you today. Go talk to his Twitter and videos and his profiles everywhere, and all the accounts and all that fun stuff, and his products and all that fun stuff too. So all right, everyone.
Thank you, man. Have fun.
Of course. Scivive and 5555. We are out.